short sales are very much leverage based. We have to be able to prove some things. Kind of like, if you were to make a statement about somebody and you were alleging that they owed you some money, right? And you wanted to go to court with that, you would need some type of evidence. Short sales are very similar to that. We have to be able to document that there's evidence on our side to show why property should be sold for a substantial discount. Um, Biggest reason that properties that need substantial rehab, and when we say substantial rehab, we mean like electrical, plumbing, HVAC, structural, major stuff that can't be done very quickly, and stuff where the materials are not going to be dirt cheap either. You know what I mean? The type of thing where the materials alone are going to cost thousands of dollars. That's the stuff that we're trying to focus on. Reason being, what scares banks and other financial institutions about foreclosing and owning property, particularly property that they are not using for some type of revenue generating purpose, right? What scares them about it is time. They need to move their money all the time in order to make it make money. So if their money is tied up in a property that is not in a financeable condition, where somebody can't just go get a mortgage and close on it really quickly, they're at the mercy of cash investors at that point, and investors that are willing to grab a hard money loan. But when they've got an asset that they cannot sell to somebody with an FHA loan or a VA loan or something like that, it's especially stressful for them because that asset might be tied up for substantially longer due to the smaller buyer pool. So for that reason, when we've got a condition where the property needs major work, those are the ones we try to do short sales on. I don't go after short sales on clean properties, basically. So step one, we find out somebody's in pre-foreclosure. Step two, we're going to find out what type of condition both the property and that person are in. And based on what we discover about the property and what we discover about that person, then we're going to decide how we proceed. Because there are a ton of these, and I mean an absolute ton, probably roughly half of them, where the person themselves is a good person. It was just an overwhelming time in their lives. Maybe they lost somebody, maybe they had a really serious medical problem, but it was a temporary medical problem, maybe something that required surgery. Now they're back on their feet again, though, and they can live the rest of their life, doing what they're supposed to be doing. It very much depends on that. So when the property is an absolute nightmare, it makes sense as a short sale because we use the physical condition of the property essentially to intimidate the financial institution right out of the picture. We use that to bully them out of the picture, showing them, hey, you don't want to have to do all this stuff. You sit there in your cute little suit and tie all day long. You don't know how to do any plumbing or electricity or anything like that. And you don't know anybody over here. This property's 700 miles away from your office. So you're going to call some random weirdo that doesn't even show up, and they're just going to take your deposit. That's the type of leverage that we're utilizing to get them to let go of title. Whereas on the flip side, the ideal pre-foreclosure, these are not everywhere. They're not all over the place. You're going to run into less of them than you'd like. But the ideal pre-foreclosure, the ones that I consider to be like the home run or grand slam pre-foreclosure, are going to be the ones that are in trouble right now, but it's a temporary situation. They're going to get back on their feet, and they've got their shit together mentally. When I say mentally, I mean more emotionally than mentally. I simply mean they're not somebody who's about to go on a bender. Okay? When you meet somebody that's in this type of situation and their behavior is very erratic, those are the ones that we want to be transactional with, definitely, because we want to get them in our lives and out of our lives all in one quick shot. We don't want them hanging around and causing mayhem. But the ones that overall they seem mature and like they've got their stuff together and they don't have substance abuse issues and they're just going to move on and rent. Like ideally, I'll give you a description, a demographic, so you'd understand what I'm saying. If I had somebody who was a little older, say maybe somebody that's in their 60s, their children have moved out, the house is too much to handle at this point. It's just this one surviving spouse. The other spouse is no longer with us, right? They've got a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, when in all honesty, they really, a 2-bedroom condo would be perfectly fine. Got some mobility issues. They'd prefer not to have the stairs to deal with anymore. And for that reason, they haven't even been upstairs in a while. That's the type of house that can make sense for me to take over sub 2. I can help them to acquire the property that is more ideal for them, the smaller property, as part of the deal and actually work it into the deal. Does that make sense? Because really what's happened is they've just been displaced. 20 years ago, their house was perfect for them when they still had children and when, her husband was still around. But her husband is no longer here. Her children have moved out and moved on with their lives. And, she really just needs to downsize because the house is a pain in the ass to keep up with. And the payments on that gargantuan house are also a pain in the ass to keep up with because they had to pull out a second mortgage or an equity line to put the last kid through college. I take over the property. I take over the debt. So I'll get all that stuff paid off. We will work out a deal with whatever the remaining equity is in the property, whereby I can help her to acquire her condo or her smaller house to downsize to. In the meantime, I've caught this property up. So say 2, maybe 2.5, 3 years from now, when she wants to refinance the new condo that I helped her to acquire into a reverse mortgage, so she no longer has to make any ongoing payments, she'll be able to do that as